Hi, I'm Paige Kaser, and today we're going to be talking about invisible disabilities. I interviewed a few college students to see what their experiences and understanding of invisible disabilities were and how that affects our lives today. The hope and goal of this video is to help you, the viewer, understand invisible disabilities and their implications and see how we can do better as a society.
What is an invisible disability?
I have no clue.
I'm not exactly sure.
To be honest with you, I really don't know.
An invisible disability is a hidden illness or ailment that is not seen on the surface. Some examples are dyslexia, ADHD, other mental health issues, or even things like nerve diseases, fibromyalgia, POTS disease, and there are so many more.
It's not a topic that's typically talked about in society or in schools, but I can infer based on my own knowledge that an invisible disability is things like, I don't know, like anxiety or like depression, like things that affect the way that people act or how they view the world, but it's kind of more like internal things, like not necessarily like being handicapped or something that people can outwardly see.
When I think about an invisible disability, I think about one that is not obvious to the eye, such as like physical disabilities, things like that, or are not always the first to be thought about. So general anxiety, depression, ones that are like invisible disabilities might not be the first ones that come to mind or are not explicitly expressed.
It is easy to think someone with a disability is somebody in a wheelchair, someone with a cane, but in reality, invisible disabilities are very real and cannot be seen upon first glance. It is very difficult for these people to be accustomed into society and get the resources that they need.
How do you think this community is treated by society?
I don't think they're treated the same as people who have more of the physical or outward disabilities compared to those who have the invisible disabilities.
Honestly, I would say the invisible disabled community is treated in not too good of a way because they have to verbally express it and give examples on why exactly like they're in depression or like exactly like that they have ADHD and how serious it is and how it affects them in their daily walk. People that have invisible disabilities have to do a lot more to get more help from people.
I think a lot of times they can be dismissed or kind of looked at as like these aliens with like a problem that people don't know how to deal with because it's not talked a lot about in society.
I explained to everybody being interviewed some of the examples of the discrimination or lack of resources provided to those with invisible disabilities. One great example I see is from a lady. She noted her discrimination in the workplace. She had an invisible disability and needed some insurance or some coverage to be able to get the help she needed. But because her disability was not evident, she was not given that help. This is just one example of how those in the invisible disabled community cannot get the resources and the help they need because people can't put themselves in their shoes or understand their struggle.
Do you know anyone with an invisible disability?
If I did, I would know. If I do have someone who means a lot to me, or maybe I don't know that much, that's struggling with that, causes me to realize like the importance of wanting to have that understanding, because you never know what people are going through. Initiating those conversations can really help my eyes to be open to if someone is struggling with that.
Probably. I'm not exactly sure. Just because of the nature, like the invisible quality of their disability, I think it can be really hard for people like that to maybe admit to loved ones or to friends that they actually suffer from a disability that may not be noticeable.
Personally, I haven't found anybody that I can say right now that has an invisible disability. We should show more love to that community and just show more love and respect to other people, no matter like if you see it or not. I can think about like people around me and think about like how they could have an invisible disability that I might not know.
As seen in the responses, not many people know of somebody with an invisible disability, and I think that's kind of the point. This gives into the sense of being invisible. It adds on to the experience, and many people with invisible disabilities also write and talk about how it causes them to be even more isolated and lonely because others cannot relate or understand what is happening. After explaining some of these things to these participants, many were shocked and almost hurt at the thought that they didn't know what somebody else was struggling with. And they came up with some great solutions to bring more awareness to this subject.
What do you think are some solutions to this problem?
I think definitely being able to be more educated about it. I think for me, not knowing what it was prior, but being able to learn and seeing more people who have these invisible disabilities to speak up more about it.
One of the biggest things that can be done is bring awareness into invisible disabilities and people that suffer. I think informing society, whether that's in school, through social media, through the news, like whatever outlet. Also training people in society of how to interact and how to deal with people that suffer from those.
After completing these interviews and this research project, it is evident that people just don't know what invisible disabilities are. Disability rights have come a long way since the 1990s when the Disabilities Rights Act came out, but there can still be so much more that can be done in this community today. This is something that needs to be talked about more. This video wants to bring awareness and education to everybody in the world to know that this is a real problem and that there can be real solutions. There was one common answer that everyone had, and that is...
I think love is the answer.
Love is the answer.
Love, for sure.
Love is the answer.
Love is the answer. Are you recording that?
Love is the answer.